Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It is the Bliss Doctor, aka Dr. Sasheen, and it is the Bliss Report for Tuesday. So we're back. So sorry for the absence. We've had some technical difficulties behind the scenes and needing to get some new equipment in, but things are delayed. So hopefully this works well. If not, you know what? I'll ask for forgiveness later because I want to get this podcast back on track. So good morning to everyone out there who is listening to us. It's so wonderful to be back. I'm so glad to be back. It is Dr. Sasheen, as I said. If you're a first-time listener, this is the Bliss Report, where I talk about all things getting into the next best chapter of your life after 40, post-divorce, doing our thing, moving and shaking in the world. Mostly just being really intentional about making the next chapter the best chapter ever, because whether you're in your 40s, your 30s, or your 50s, you've got at least 30 more years on this planet. Don't you want to have more fun? Because I sure do. All right, so what are we getting into today? Well, there's a lot. I missed you. It's been a couple of days since I posted. I try to do this podcast 4 days a week, and I try to record it in real time. But sometimes that means glitches happen. But we're going to move on from the glitch and talk about what are you doing with your painting of your life. I was having this great conversation with a dear friend of mine who is painting a new canvas of her life. And she's coloring in the brush strokes with potentially moving abroad with her child to another country and thinking about the possibilities of what that could look like. And I like to look at life as a canvas or a symphony or a blank sheet of composing paper, something that can be used, a medium that can be used, because that's what life is, right? It's this medium that we get to use to create whatever work of art or masterpiece that we are going to look back on when we get to those 30, 40 years from now moments. And we're looking back going, I did that. That was me. So I want to talk today about what it is that you're painting your life with. What are the materials that you're using to help you paint your life? Because I have a feeling that a lot of people out there within the sound of my voice are painting their life with some small stones. And if you have been listening to me, you know that I've been talking a lot about your big rock values. Today, I'm going to talk about your small stones that are getting in the way. And these small stones are making it really hard to live any kind of great life that you might want to live. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to get into it, but that's going to have to wait for just a moment while we pay a bill. So we'll be right back after a word from our... No, we won't. Yes, we will. A word from our sponsor. So whether you're listening to me on the Peloton, on the treadmill, running, walking, over coffee, over tea, on your way to work, on your way to drop off the kids, wherever you're listening to me, good morning. This is the Bliss Report. I'm Dr. Sasheen, and we'll be right back. Hey everybody, it's Dr. Sasheen from So You're Getting Divorced? The podcast, here to talk to you about Anchor and the ease at which you too can launch and start your own podcast. If you haven't heard about Anchor, let me just break it down for you. Here is the 411. Number one, it's free. This is a great way to get started if you've never done podcasting, or if you're a pro and you really like the idea of using your phone or your computer to get your podcast going without all the hassle, because number two, they will distribute it for you to places like Pocket Casts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. That's a pretty sweet deal. Next, you can make money while you're doing your podcast with no minimum listenership, and that's pretty darn spectacular. So, follow these instructions. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Now, let's get back to the show. And we're back. All right, so what am I talking about? These small stones. Well, the big rocks... Let's start there. You're going to hear some paper in the background because I like to have my notes, because I like to say a lot and I want to make sure that I get it all in. The big rock values of our lives are the things that are non-negotiable about our happiness. They're the things that are non-negotiable on our path. They may change, and they should change, as we grow and we experience life and we realize that things that we might have held near and dear in our 20s don't really resonate for us anymore in our 30s. And the same holds true for our 40s. There may be things in our 30s that we were just like, I'm never going to feel this, or I'm always going to believe that. No, that doesn't actually happen. We grow, we experience, we live. So those big rocks, those bedrocks though, those should be the things that anchor your life down, you know. They're the places where everything else has to move around them because they're immovable. You won't negotiate on those things. And if you have found yourself negotiating a lot on your big rocks, then you're probably living in the quicksand of small stones. And the quicksand of small stones are the things that you have allowed to chip away at the life that you wanted. They're the things that you are now living and things that you're now doing and experiences that you're now having, people that you're now doing life with, places that you're now living, where you're just like, I don't know how I ended up here. And I don't really want to be here, but I don't know how I got here and how we get here. And if here's a place where you don't want to be or a life that you don't want to see yourself living continually, if that's where here is, then you got here by becoming negotiable about your big rocks. You got here by deciding that what was more important was keeping the peace than keeping your feet to your own fire. You got here by deciding that it was just too hard to make a change because I'm 35, 45, 55, than it is to say, oh my gosh, I'm only 35 or 45 or 55 and I've got so much living left to do that I'm willing to take a risk. You know, I can remember when I was driving to, well, first of all, let's back up a second. I've always had a value of education, though I haven't always known what I was going to do with that. And so I applied for graduate school to get my PhD. And I tell you, the story of my illustrious educational journey is full of potholes and missed exits and left turns. And, you imagine you're like driving down the highway and you realize that you need to be on that mountain that you see over there in the distance, but somehow you're on this dirt road over here in the country and you're supposed to be on that mountain. And you're like, how did I get over here? Because you missed your exit. That's kind of what my educational journey has looked like. But it has course corrected in some interesting and funny ways, which I'll tell those stories later. But the point of this particular story is that I can remember the day I was driving down to Columbia, Missouri with some friends of mine to visit a university that I had applied for the program, but I'd gotten in on a contingency because there was no funding. There was no funding for me. PhDs, they think we make lots of money. We're living cushy jobs. It's cost a lot of money to get a PhD, y'all. So let me just tell you. So I'm driving through the middle of Missouri. And if you've ever driven through Missouri or Kansas, it's flat. It's flat. Missouri is not quite as flat as Kansas. Kansas really is the flattest place in the country. But it's very flat between Kansas City, Missouri and Columbia, Missouri. But on that drive, I was with my good friends and we were just talking and laughing and just enjoying each other's company as we're driving through flatlands for 2.5 hours. And we get to the edge of Columbia and the trees begin. This is one of the things I love about Missouri. The rolling hills and the trees began again. And we dropped into Columbia and there is just a feeling in a college town, right? There's this feeling of possibility. You drive through the streets and everything is so cute and new and it looks new to you because you've never seen it. It's probably really old because most college towns are really old. But there's something about the way the vibe in a college town feels because of the fact that it's really ruled by the university. And so the university ethos permeates everything. So everywhere I drove, there were hints of black and gold, which are the colors of University of Missouri, which is where I got my PhD. And so we're driving through towns, we're driving through the town, we're turning on little streets, we're looking around. But I didn't even know if I was going to get a chance to be there, but I wanted to walk into that possibility. I wanted to put myself on that campus and feel what it was like because my journey through college was not traditional. I didn't get the undergrad experience. Again, stories for another time. You remember those dirt road mountain? Mm-hmm. But I didn't get a lot of those experiences through my first 2 degrees, undergraduate and master's. But I decided that if somehow I was going to get a chance to do this thing called doctoral work, I wanted to feel what it felt like to be there. And even if it was just fleeting because I wasn't going to get funding, okay, fine. But I still wanted to feel for just a second what it might feel like. And I was determined to find a way to get that funding. I was determined to figure something out. So I didn't know what that was going to look like. Are you kidding? Y'all, listen, I had no clue what was going to happen. But what did happen is that we get to Mizzou, University of Missouri, which is called Mizzou. For those of you who follow football or basketball or any of the sports, uh, Mizzou is a powerhouse, and it is the flagship university of the University of Missouri system. So Mizzou, M-I-Z-Z-O-U for my Tigers out there. Anyway, so we drive into town. We drive down this little street and we find a place to park. And right in front of me are these stone arches. There's this big stone archway, and I can see kind of just a little bit onto this grassy area, which I came to know as the quad. I didn't know what it was at the time. I just, we could kind of see this grassy area. So we park and we get out, and there are these beautiful, there it looks just like a little cute little town. There's a Starbucks and um, a Chipotle, and there's a big parking structure because I think we parked around the corner. And so we walk down the street, and there's not a lot of people there because school's not in yet. This is summer. It's summer. It's hot. It's the middle of the country. It's hot. But we're walking through. We get onto the sidewalk, and before me is the big arch stoneway that leads onto the quad. And walking under that archway, and I am just scared and excited and nervous and terrified. I am in my 30s. I'd never done this before. I was looking around, and there weren't a lot of students yet, but this is a huge university, and I'd never been on a college campus this big for this reason. I'd visited for other reasons. I'd visited other college campuses, don't get me wrong, but I'd never been on one this big, separated from everything that I'd ever known, because my life was back in Kansas City. That's what I had known my entire life. I had never left, and all of a sudden I was leaving. I was not only leaving to move 2 hours to Columbia to go to school, I was leaving everything I'd ever known, every job I'd ever had, every friend I'd ever made, all of my family. No one lived in Columbia, Missouri. No one. And for the first entire year that I was there, no one came to visit me. So I was truly an island unto myself. But in that moment of walking under that stone archway, I was everything that I'd ever doubted about myself or believed to be true about myself that really wasn't, but I believed it to be true about myself. All of it came rushing back. Like, what am I doing here? Oh my gosh, I don't belong here. And then I walked through the archway out into this big, expansive green area. And in front of me are these 5 columns. And they're the columns of the original university, and they're on the quad. And I just smiled because I was just like, I don't care what happens next. Nothing is going to beat this moment. It was like, I don't know if I'd walked into Oxford or Cambridge or some Ivy League, because in the world of, Big Ten, Mizzou is Ivy League, but it felt like I was like, this must be what it feels like to go to college and to have that experience. And let me tell you something. If you've thought about going back to school, do it. If you want the experience, do it. You will never regret the experience. That was a freaking amazing 4 years of my life, to get that PhD, by the way. But so we get onto the quad, and my friend, they're talking to me, and I'm hearing them, but I'm not really hearing them because, you start to zone out because there's this ringing in your ears, this buzzing in your body because you're so excited. Like, everything about you starts to hum in some ways, and you're listening, but there's also this roaring sound going on in your ears, and you're so stinking excited. But you're in your 30s, and you're supposed to be cool, and you're supposed to be adult, and you're supposed to be grown, and you're supposed to have, so I have this big rock about experiences. Like, I really believe that life should be experienced, but I had never left home, really. I'd never left the place of my birth. And so for me, all of my experiences had taken place in the confines of Kansas City, Missouri. I'd traveled, but I'd always come back to Kansas City. That was home base. I was about to uproot home base. I had made the decision that if I got accepted, that I was going to stop believing that Kansas City was home, and that home became wherever I was. So this was a big deal for me to have gotten this conditional acceptance. So I was literally humming like 1,000 bees were carrying me around. So we find the building, Switzler Hall of the university where my program was going to be housed, communication program. And we went into the building. It's this old building. It smells funny. It's got weird noises. It definitely needs an overhaul. I know it looks totally different now. I've been gone for so long. And I haven't been back in ages. So We meet the receptionist and she tells us we can go look around. So we kind of wander around this old building, and in some ways I'm nostalgic already because I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. I don't know how I'm going to make this happen, but I know that I feel like I'm supposed to be here. I feel it like deep in my bones that I'm supposed to be here. So I'm walking through this building and I'm just kind of taking it all in. And the director of the graduate program happened to be in his office, so we popped in to say hello because, I am one of his students conditionally. I'm one of his students, and I wanted to say hello. And here is where you always stand on your big rocks no matter where they take you, and you become non-negotiable. And here's the lesson from this experience for me. I was so determined. I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm going to get here, but we're going to make that trip down there. I'm going to swim in it for the afternoon, and then I'm going to come back to Kansas City and I'm going to figure it out because I believe in this experience and I know I'm supposed to do this. So fast forward to that trip. We go up the stairs, I knock on the door, poke my head around. Dr. Hess is in his office. John Hess, if you ever listen to this, hello, you don't know how much you meant to me that day. And my friends are there with me. And he tells me that they were going to contact me because they had funding. Not only did they have funding, they had a full fellowship. I wasn't going to have to pay any tuition at all to go to school. And I was going to get a stipend. And I was going to teach courses to help defray the cost. You have if you could see my face right now, the sheer joy of that moment stays with me. That was in 2004, 2005. It is 2021, people. That joy still stays with me. That sheer and utter unadulterated joy. And this is why this is called the Bliss Report, because I have felt that before and I have felt it many times since then. But that is one moment that will forever live in my psyche as a moment when I realized you don't become negotiable on the things that really matter to you. And that's our segue right now into what does it mean to live the life you're living now if it's not the one that you want to live? Why are you settling for life that doesn't feel like 1,000 bees literally carrying your body around because you are humming on a vibration that's so amazing that everyone around you can feel it? What does it mean? Well, what it means is you have started living the little small stones of anxiety, the small stones of fear, the small stones of feeling rushed and never having enough time to do anything that you really want, the small stones of the 9 to 5 grind or the 10 to 6 grind or the 11 to 7 grind, and it feels like a grind. It doesn't feel good, so it feels like it's a grind just to get it done. The small stones of living just for 5 o'clock or just for the weekend. Oh my God, is it Friday yet? Because the week is so hard. Or worse, you live for the weekend only to have to face the family dynamics that you don't have to face all week long, so you can avoid them all week long because you're working so hard. But on the weekend, there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to go. Or you're living the small stones of praying that Sunday night will somehow feel different because you dread so much Monday morning going back to that toxic job or the job that you just hate, that you've outgrown, the life that you no longer live. The small stones have taken over. If you are looking at your life going, I don't know what the heck she's talking about. What does it mean to have your body literally hum to the point where you can call bees to you because they're like, you must be one of us. Seriously, you're buzzing with beauty and excitement. So you must belong to us. We're just going to come gravitate towards you. And oddly enough, people, bees do gravitate towards me, but I don't get stung. You figure it out. So, if your life is not what you want it to be, because it has been literally consumed now by this small stones of everything that is not a priority for you, then your big rocks are drowning. And your life is drowning in this, it's called quicksand, but it's really, really slow sand, right? Like you're standing and then you're sinking and you're sinking. And before you know it, your nostrils above the sand, just trying to breathe, just trying to keep your nose up enough so that you can breathe, hoping that someone will come along and throw you a branch and pull your butt out. But what really should be happening is that you should be getting a vacuum and sucking all these small stones from around your big rocks. And how do you suck your small stone, these small stones from around the big rocks that matter to you? You have to start making choices. You've got to start getting in there and saying, I am not this, I am this. I am not here, I am there. I am not up, I am down. Or I am not down, I am up. Whatever direction or place that you need to be, you have to decide to go there. The big rocks only happen when you stand on them. And when you use them to help you build. They do not happen if you're over there in quicksand land, trying desperately to keep these small stones from becoming all consumptive. Because you know what? If you're standing on your bedrocks, the small stones can't consume you. Because, I mean, you can just keep building up your bedrock, right? You can get higher and higher away from the things that insist on grinding you down. And the more you are solid about your unshakable, unstoppable non-negotiables, the more you realize that a lot of the small stones that you've been carrying in your pockets and been allowing to rub you they're like the irritating sand in your swimsuit that you didn't quite get to, that stuff you could have just washed away an hour ago. Instead of standing there being irritated in your swimsuit with the sand of these small stones, you could have just said, I'm going to go over here and take a shower, wash this crap off my body, put on something different, and I'm going to get back to my big rocks. Instead, what we do is go, but if I wash away my sand, then other people might feel like I'm washing away them, or experiences that I'm doing may go away. And what if that's the right thing that I'm supposed to be doing? Here's the thing. You can't paint a beautiful life with 1,000 different colors at the same time. It's still one stroke at a time. The great symphony of your existence is still pencil, paper, one note, next note, next note. Nothing is going to happen if you don't make a choice. Nothing gets better if we don't choose something. You've got to say yes to something and then you say no to the rest. That is the only way, absolutely the only way to paint the picture of the existence that you see. So how do you say yes? Well, let's get nitty gritty. Some of us are weighed down by the everyday minutia. And I'm just like, okay, so find a different job, start a new business, get a side hustle, free up some money, hire some help. I can keep going. Hire a housekeeper for 1 day a month. Ask yourself, what would it feel like if once a month someone else came in and cleaned my home? Hell, I would like to say that you should do that once a week, but I don't know your financial life, so I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I'm going to say this. If you're bogged down in the minutia of an environment that is not serving you, then you've got to get that environment to serve you. You have to go out there into your home today, into your office, into your home, into your car that's become the catch-all for everything. You got to go into those spaces and liberate them to become better than they are. Because you're not going to get better if they're not better. You can't live in squalor and then hope to be clean. You can't live in funk and hope to smell good. That's not how it works. And so if hiring help gets you one step closer to the beautiful painting that you see in your life, then daggone it, hire help. Hire I don't care. Hire a housekeeper, hire a gardener, hire someone to come clean your lawn or mow your lawn or whatever. Hire someone for an afternoon with the kids. I do not care if anyone says to you, it is so bougie for you to hire someone to come watch your kids for a few hours so that you can go take a nap or go shopping or go to the gym or blah, 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 because blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Remember, the painting is yours. The brush is in your hand. The pencil's in your hand. And what's happening is that we're letting others come along and fill in our canvas using our hand so that we think it's us, but it's actually not us. It's actually not us. We're not actually holding our own paintbrush. Someone's hand is over ours, and they're dictating the painting, the colors that we choose next, the notes that we write next, the words that we choose to write next in the book of our life. And I'm asking you, if you really want to stand in your non-negotiable truth and you want to have the life, the picture of that life that you see in your head, or as Lisa Nichols says, we have a birthday, we have a death day, and life is lived in the dash. And that dash should be amazing for you. And if it's not, it's time to do some things differently. So like I said, there are a lot of reasons that people live in the small stones of life. Anxiety, fear, environment, money, the grind, the 9-to-5 grind, the living for the weekend. Mentally, they don't feel like they are able to break free of some of the things that they believe their entire life. So it's a mindset issue. Could be a physical issue. They feel like they don't have the stamina. They don't have there are 10,001 reasons why we don't start reaching for a better life and choosing to stand on our non-negotiables. Most of those reasons have to do with other people, and none of them have anything to do with the truth. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're on this side of the grass today and you can hear the sound of my voice, then you got another shot. Period. You got another shot. You have another opportunity to literally change the course of your existence because you can still hear my voice. And if you can still hear my voice, whether you hear me through a teletype or whether you're actually hearing me through your headphones, if you can still hear my voice, that means that in this moment, you can choose to do whatever you want to do. And someone out there is going, I can't choose to do this because I don't have any money. Well, I have this guide called 50 Side Hustles. It's free. Go grab it. Pick one, implement. Pick two, implement. Pick one, implement this week. Pick another one, implement next week. I can hear someone saying, I don't know what my big rocks are. I don't even know who I am anymore. Great. I have a book for that too. Big Rocks, Small Stones workbook. Entirely putting together an entire course on helping people find their big rocks again so that they can start becoming non-negotiable about the things in their life that matter and then start pursuing them. The next voice I hear out there in the ether is, I don't have time. Okay, if you have time, if you have no time but you have money, then you have time. If you have no time but you have money, then you have time, because money buys you time. Money buys your time back. Go hire that housekeeper. Get yourself on one of those meal kit plans so that all you have to do is come home, open the box and cook, not go to the grocery store, meal prep. No, whichever kit you use, put yourself on it for a month and see if that doesn't free up that time that you don't have for the other things that you want to be doing. I can hear, but what about the people that I live with won't understand? Okay, so tomorrow when you're miserable and the next day after that when you're miserable, will they understand the mental breakdown? Will they understand the tears that you cry when you think no one can hear you? Will they understand the sitting in the car and breathing because you have to walk back in the house again? Will they understand that you are happier sitting in that car because it's peaceful than you are walking in the house? Because if you think no one notices that you're unhappy, then you're wrong. The problem is no one's going to do anything about it because you have accepted that being unhappy is more important than being happy. And so therefore, if that's your reality, people will accept that reality with you. And this is a harsh lesson, beloveds. It's a harsh, harsh lesson, listeners. And that is, in our unhappiness, somebody else is very happy. And as long as we are willing to be unhappy, someone else can continue to be happy. And the moment you say, but I deserve to be happy too. What about me? Then you'll find out real quick that the people who are really invested in your unhappiness, they're going to become real upset. And they might even go away. Because the happier you get, the more blissed out you become, the harder it is for people who needed you to be unhappy to stick around because their investment is no longer returning for them. Their investment of just keeping you in the same place is no longer bearing fruit because you're not staying still. All of a sudden you're buzzing like you have 1,000 bees in your body holding you up, and they don't know what to do with it. And as Lisa Nichols says, you do not dim your light. You make other people put on some shades, because you will continue to get better and better and better and go forward and forward and forward. And someone out there is going to be like, I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what he's doing. They've never been like that before. They all of a sudden think they're too good for us. Or they think they're better than we are. Or she thinks or he thinks, I can't believe they've never been like this before. Well, let me ask you something, dear hearts. If all this experience that I'm talking about, all this great experience, this beautiful life, this big painting of this big canvas that you're painting, or this novel that you're writing, or the symphony that you're composing, in all of that, if you never changed, are you doing it right? Are you doing it right? If you never grow, are you doing it right? I think of Steve Harvey, and we'll end here. And because I like Steve Harvey a lot, he says some things that I sometimes have issue with. So I'm not going to get into that. But I think of one of the things that he often says, which is he embraces being who he is now. But that's not who he was. There's a whole life that man lived where he was someone completely different. And in this iteration of life, he is living his best freaking fly life, him and his wife. If you are living a life that you envisioned, then you should be different. right? We should be different because all that experience, all that beauty, all that wonder, all those creative juices that were flowing should change us for the better. And if someone says to you, I can't believe how much you've changed, all you need to say is, I know, isn't it great? And that, my friends, is what it means to have a painting of your life that you can appreciate. This has been Dr. Sasheen. I hope that you have found something useful in this podcast this morning and that you find your next note, paint stroke, or word on the page, canvas, or symphony sheet that leads you to the life that you want to live, that gets you off the dirt road and onto your mountaintop, that stands you firmly on your bedrock and gets you out of the swimming pool with all those small stones. You can find all the products I mentioned, the ebooks I mentioned on my website. I don't have a website, on the link in my profile. Big Rock, Small Stones, and I forget which was the other one that I talked about. Anyway, you can find all of the information, all of the links to the things that I sell in the link in my bio or in the show notes of the show, wherever you listen to. If you feel so inclined, please leave a rating and a review, like and subscribe to the podcast. Let us know that you're out there because I would love to hear from you. The YouTube channel is getting more and more content on it, so go over there, subscribe, get more off podcast content. I do videos. I post them all the time. I've started a new series called Sunday Conversations with the Bliss Doctor. There are 3 to 4 minute conversations, 3 to 4 minutes of me just kind of talking through some things that I think are really beneficial as you are pursuing this next best chapter of your life. Thank you all for listening. I will see you all on Thursday. We usually take Wednesday off, and we're going to continue to do that. I'll see you on Thursday. Have an excellent and most blissful day. Dr. Sasheen, we're out.